thank you for joining us. This is my first time doing a teen session at the symposium. I'm usually speaking with adults. I hope to give you in 45 minutes something you can take with you and you leave going, okay, that was worth my time. All right, that's my goal. In 45 minutes, there's not a lot of depth we can get into, but I think I'm hopefully going to give you some tools that you'll find helpful, not only now, but kind of as you go forward. Finding motivation, that's where we are. I want you to just kind of think about what it is your learning goal is here and what you can take away from this. So, what motivates you? That's the question. I will be honest, when I was asked to do this session, I was like, I don't know, what do teens want to hear about? Like, what do you want me to talk about? So my daughter had she's a junior, had a bunch of friends over one night, and I said, what would you guys want to listen to? What do you think is important? And they said, don't do a session on anxiety and depression and what to do if your friend is sad. They talk to us about that all the time. I said, okay, because that's probably what I would have done. And all of a sudden they said to me, you know what? Everybody, like every kid I know is struggling with like motivation, like getting things done or getting started or what am I doing? Maybe you do something like that. I said, okay, well, let's see what we can do. I will tell you, I learned a lot as I was researching to put this together. So talking about what motivates you. Are you motivated by those things that are external, what we call extrinsic, right? You've probably heard of extrinsic motivation. And I love the images up here, and I love this because I was like, yeah, I can relate to this. As a human being, there are things about this that motivate me. Making money, right? Being successful. It's also about avoiding certain things, right? I don't want to end up in trouble, or I don't want to end up not being able to do the things that I want to do by making certain choices. So we get very motivated by the things that are around us. A lot of times I think extrinsically we're motivated by the voices around us. Can anybody connect to that? I kind of went back to the key speaker, like I know a lot of kids tell me, there's a lot of pressure from my parents to get certain grades, or I put pressure on myself to get certain grades, or get into certain schools, or be in certain clubs, or do certain groups, right? So all these voices are coming at us all the time. If you're on TikTok, you're on Reels, you're on Instagram, right? Any social media, we see these things. We're constantly being bombarded with people who are achieving this or succeeding that. I said I used to teach elementary school. I was a school counselor at Longwood in our district. In the last 5 years, if I asked a kid, hey, what do you think you want to do someday? 8 out of 10 wanted to be a YouTuber. I want to be a famous YouTuber and make a ton of money. And I was like, wow, okay, so things are changing, right? Anyway, so sometimes we're motivated by what's going on around us. Then we have intrinsic motivation. And what I learned through the research, and I know from my own experiences, is often this is the last motivator that we pay a lot of attention to. But intrinsic is really what is important to us, right? Our own personal goals, our own personal interests. What are we curious about? Like, really, what gets you excited about stuff? Like, what brings you joy? What do you get that is really motivating for you to do something, get up and go? So that's kind of what we're going to focus on today. How to go from all that outside you should stuff to what really makes me want to get up and do the things that I want to do. All right. So motivation is hard. Would you agree? It's true for us as adults. I myself have ADHD. I've learned as I've parented a 22-year-old now with ADHD. I've learned a lot about myself. So if you're one of us in the room, it's even harder. We know that for a lot of different reasons. And I think a lot of times we wait for motivation to kind of hit us over the head, right? Like when I get the feeling, the desire, when something is out there, usually when we have to do something, we're hoping the motivation hits us. But often it works the other way. We just got to get going and start doing something, and the motivation starts to come. So I want to share a couple of video clips with you that I found kind of motivating. I hope you feel the same. So we're going to kind of reflect back on this guy. Nate Harmon is his name. I just want you to turn and pay attention. This is a short minute and a half.
As you grow up and as your world gets bigger, our minds can race, it can go fast. But I want you to just breathe. Your life, your purpose, who you are, what you can achieve, It goes far beyond even what you can believe. But too often we're afraid of taking the first step. Too often we're afraid just to begin to believe. I want you to see it in a different lens. I want you to begin to get excited to know that maybe some of the fears and maybe some of the uncertainties could be the greatest tool that you will ever have. I get it. A lot of times you may not know what your purpose is. A lot of times you may not know exactly what's around the corner. What do you want to do with your future and your life? I don't need you to have the exact details carved out, etched out, set in stone. But I need you just to begin to find a direction, to begin to find something that you're passionate about. Some of you, maybe it's music, maybe it's entertainment, maybe it's becoming a psychologist, a psychiatrist, maybe it's a counselor, maybe you want to start a company, maybe you're a fashion designer. I don't care what it is, but this is the place that I need you to take a moment. Pause. What is it that lights you up on the inside?
All right, I'm going to pause it right there. Anybody relate to what you heard in that? Like if you had those thoughts, those thinking, like, I don't know, how to make the decision. Some of you are juniors and seniors, what is high school what is life gonna be after I graduate? What's expected of me? What do I really want to do? It's what I really enjoyed about the keynote speaker today. I found some really interesting things. I'm sure many people can connect to that. I was going to share that when he spoke about the happiness. If you kind of remember, he showed a slide early on, like a lot of people are motivated by money. I mean, we are. That's the culture we live in, the world we live in. And that at a certain point, the data shows once you make just enough to get what you want, be what you want, people tap out at happiness. The more they made, in some cases, their happiness actually went down. It was really interesting to me because I think it speaks to trying to be all the things when he talked about getting into certain colleges and the pressure to do that. I can remember a time, my middle son is now 20, he didn't go to college. He chose to go to COD. And they do the walkouts in our district at the, you maybe remember if you were in an elementary school in our district where the seniors come through right for graduation and they walk out in their cap and gown and everybody applauds them and they're wearing, or they hold signs about what they're doing and where they're going. And most people are going to college. And I remember my son that year when I was helping out at his elementary school, there were about 5 kids at the end of the line who were going to COD. And they're like, no, I'm not carrying that sign. No. Everybody else said U of I, ASU, Northwestern, right? Ohio State. They're like, we're not carrying that sign. I'm like, yeah, you are. And I shoved it in, and they're like, probably cursing me about it. But I'm like, you need to be proud about what you're doing too. There's no one path for every person. And I think what he spoke about this morning supported all of that with that research. So it is about doing what's exciting to you, right? Like what meets your goals. All right, so finding your passion. That is the first page that you have in your packet. Again, some of you I know like to take notes and follow along. Some of you are like, nope, I'm just sitting here and listening. I don't care, it's fine. It's whatever works for you. But the 5 whys. If you take anything from this, this is a really helpful tool. I use it in therapy, but we use it in life. Why? Usually, when we say, hey, I want to do this, or I want to achieve that, it isn't until we get down to about 3 to 4 whys later that we really get at the core of what is motivating to us, or why we're choosing something. So I'm going to give you an example. But I want you to think about what kind of life do you want to have right now as a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, or an 18-year-old. What does your day-to-day look like? What do you want it to look like at 25? What do you want it to look like at 30? Finding your passion includes really what brings you joy. Is that music? Is that being in a relationship with other people? Is that designing? Is that creating? Is that leading? Is that animals? Is it being outside? What is it that really makes you happy? Getting at that internal answer is going to help with that motivation. What's most important to you? What do you value? And I love this question. Do you think it's up to you or somebody else to give you the kind of life you want? Do you think it's up to you or up to somebody else to give you the kind of life you want? All right, so we're going to dive into the 5 whys. So I'm just going to share my example. And then once we get through it, if somebody wants to share, I'd love to hear. If you're following along, we're on that first page. So we're looking at what's the goal. I'm going to give you mine. One of my life goals is to become a professional speaker. And why? That's the next question. Why is this a goal of mine? Well, I think it would be a lot of fun. I think it would pay me good money, more than I'm making right now. Okay, so it's an external motivator, right? Why do I want that? Well, I'd like to share what I've learned in my career. Why is that? Why too? Well, teaching is hard. I know teachers are struggling. We don't have enough new teachers coming into the field of education. That's a passion of mine. That's really important to me. Why is that? Well, what I've learned has been valuable and could be helpful to others. And why is that? Because I care about kids and I'm passionate about helping other people. What you begin to see, if you do this for yourself, we go from this really high external goal to what's really internal and motivating to us. Why is that, right? Why is that an important goal to mine? Why is this important? Because it helps with the motivation of when you're feeling stuck. I think this is some of the most boring stuff because this is really hard for me. Goal setting. But I've also learned it can be really valuable, especially when you're stuck, and like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to get going. Like, where do I go? Have you guys learned about SMART goals before? Sure you have, right? Everybody's talking about it in school. Little goals, and I'm going to give you some tips in a little bit, but specific, measurable, they need to be actionable, right? Realistic and timely. Give you an example. I was a high school guidance counselor for a number of years, and I had a lot of young men at the time who would come into my office as sophomores and juniors and be like, I don't even know what courses to sign up for because I just want to be in the NBA. It's fine. I love it. Specific, can you measure it, how you get there, what actions are you going to take? Is it realistic? Less than 0.5% of any high school basketball player ever makes the NBA. Is it realistic?
It's possible, yes.
It's possible. But I always said, all right, plan A, I get it. But then let's do plan B. Because it's not as realistic as being able to choose some other things because there's so many outside factors. But you're right, it's possible, and you never want to lose hope that it's possible.
Students who attend selected colleges do not learn more, make more money, or have better careers. All right. Here's the third myth. And this is one that really showed up in my house. Children develop at the same rate. So, I've got a good friend, he coined the term developmental empathy. His name is Dave Gleason. He wrote a great book. Nina, this is your next book, all right. At What Cost? Defending Adolescent Development in Fiercely Competitive Schools. And what he defines developmental empathy as is matching the demands we place on our kids with their brain's development. Right now, the demands we place on them are based on their age, based on their grade. But different kids develop at different rates. This part of our brain, this prefrontal cortex, is still under construction well past 25. They're finding that it's in the early 30s, that this part of our brain that controls some very important things when it comes to our ability to be successful in school, our ability to control our impulse, our emotional regulation, our ability to initiate tasks, especially when it's a non-preferred task, persisting with things that are hard, transitions, empathy, attention, planning, all of these things. If you struggle with these things, life is much harder in a high-achieving school. It's much harder to be successful. And the thing is that when we got kids who are in the same grade, they may have... He tells a story of a Canadian psychologist who loved his hockey. And so he'd go to these elite youth hockey tournaments. And so he's sitting there and he'd bring his wife along who didn't like hockey at all. And so she's sitting there and she's reading the program and she nudges him and she said, you know what? Most of these kids were born in January, February, and March. He says, isn't that interesting? And so he looks at it, and he's a psychologist, he said, let's do a study. And what he found is in these elite sports, not just hockey, but swimming and other elite sports, tennis, he found that there's a 40, 30, 20, 10 consistent pattern that the kids who are on these teams, the athletes that are the most in the most elite programs, 40% of them come in the first quarter of the school year, of the year, January through March. And then December, it's 10%, right? October, November, December. Any idea why that might be? So what he found was the cutoff for these leagues is January 1st. So if you've got someone who's born January 1st, they're a year older than someone who's born on the 31st. And as a result, if you're in a six-year-old hockey team, you're a year older than everybody else than the other. There's good research on self-esteem, and it came out in the 1990s, and we began to create this self-esteem generation. And I think it was well-meaning. I think it was a good thing, right? And I think we tried to hack it. And when we try and hack self-esteem, I think we've had some terrible, terrible outcomes. So, how did we do this? I think as a culture, as parents, as kids, there's this belief that if we are distressed, if we experience distress, then that undermines our self-esteem. So we've got to protect everybody from experiencing distress. Because how does distress go along with self-esteem? And so we began to do this thing called intensive parenting. Mothers and fathers overextend their time, money, curating their child's life in hopes of maximizing their potential. It's interesting, in the last 40 years we've doubled, as parents, we've actually doubled the amount of time we spend with our kids. And our kids are experiencing mental health problems like never before. Right? Aren't we curious about this? Right? Maybe not, say the teenagers here, right? We began this idea, interesting, this is the number of times the word play date was used. And it just takes off. All of a sudden, kids couldn't just walk outside and start playing with each other. Adults need, and we continue to add. And then with this myth that more is better. The more teams they're on, the more enrichment activities they have. But we would never do that. Hold on. Let's see. My computer is about to restart. This could go very wrong. Let me just see if I snooze it. Am I still up there? Okay. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, and I was on a roll too, right? Oh, let me get that roll back. So, this myth that more is better. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, oh, did it work? Let's see. I got it, all right. Here's the thing. Have we ever said, you've only had 2 ice cream sundaes, how about a 3rd? Right? We would never do that. Because there is a point at when too much is too much. There can be too much of a good thing. And so our intensive parenting, we can have unintended consequences. Not only are we protecting our kids from experiences that are essential for them in their development, but guess who else is overwhelmed by it all? As parents, it's like, okay, what's this afternoon look like? Is it ballet shoes or is it shin pads? Right? And we gotta get it. Who's got the snack? Everybody's moving around everywhere. And we deprive kids of some really important things, don't we? The ability to tolerate discomfort. Because we're there to take away that discomfort and solve the problem for them. The ability to develop a sense of personal competence. When we solve problems for them, then they don't have the belief and understanding that they can solve it themselves. And the belief that they can solve their own problems. These are the keys to resilience. If we want our kids to be resilient, then when they experience distress, they have the skills to address that. When they experience a conflict with someone, they learn how to do it because they are actively engaged in that themselves. By overemphasizing self-esteem, we can make them feel okay when they should be more worried. It's okay for kids to be worried about things. How else do we expect them to know how to manage worry as they get older if we try and take away their worry? We increase their sense of entitlement. I shouldn't have to work this hard. This is uncomfortable for me. The benefits of not supervising your child is they get bored. Ideally, if they don't have a phone, maybe without the phone, they won't get bored. But they'll be in more conflict. They'll make more mistakes. They'll have more bruises. And these are the building blocks. Parenting mainly serves to burn out parents while harming children's competence and mental health. This is why the Surgeon General issued that warning. It's exhausting for us. And we don't read the research. In 2018, 75% of people said intensive parenting scenarios were very good or excellent. Less than 40% said the same about showing a non-intensive approach. And our risk and danger are unintentionally transferring their anxiety to them. We gotta be careful. When our kid gets anxious, then we get anxious. We wanna fix it. We don't want our kids to experience that. And then they see our anxiety and they realize even more that this distress is not okay. My parents are anxious about this. Parents, whether they mean to or not, seem to be making the problem worse. Young people's increasing fear of not being perfect was driven in part by what they thought their parents wanted from them. And perfectionism has doubled in the last few decades. And the thing about perfectionism is, you do really well to get through high school, but they don't perform any better when they get into the world of work. What they do is they perfect the art of following, they perfect the art of compliance. But achieving excellence in school often requires mastering old ways of thinking. Building an influential career demands new ways of thinking. It's not tell me what to do and I'll do it just right. It's here's a problem, I will figure this out. Two very different skills. And if you're struggling, it doesn't mean that bad things are going to happen. I like this post. I got a 2.4 GPA my first semester in college. Thought maybe I wasn't cut out for the moon. STEM is hard for everyone. Grades ultimately aren't what matter. Curiosity and perseverance are. But what we've done for so many kids is created achievement addiction. They call this the hedonic treadmill, which is an interesting metaphor. It's this constant pursuit of achievement. And the reason why it's a treadmill is because it's exhausting, but you never get to the end.
Carries weight. When I began to learn the power of punching fear in the face, not being afraid of failing, not being afraid of being uncomfortable, not being afraid of stepping into my story.
Hi everybody. Hi everybody. Hi everybody. Hi everybody. Hi everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome back from lunch. My name is Tracy Schwartz, and I'm just going to introduce you and get you started this afternoon. Again, thank you for attending the symphony. I work here in District 204. I'm a school counselor, but we want to thank you for coming today, and we want to thank our sponsor, our IPEF, Indian Prairie Education Foundation, for their support of the event today, and we're welcoming in Districts 203, Wheaton 200, East Aurora, West Aurora, and Oswego. And we're excited that we're all committed to providing mental health resources to students and families, and this event would not be possible without the support of IPF and all our sponsors. So after your presentation, remember I have your raffle tickets. Come and see me. You can get those on your way out, or get one, I guess it is, on your way out. The drawings are all down for the raffle baskets by the main floor, by the main entrance, I'm sorry. And those prize drawings will take place at 1:45 p.m., but you do not need to be present to win. All right. I want to introduce your speaker for today. We're excited to have Dr. Kevin Masterson from Endeavor Health here to present Fired Up and Wired, the real effect of medicine, and completed his residency and fellowship at Indiana University. He is board certified in general psychiatry and addiction psychiatry. His current role is Associate Medical Director of Linden Oaks Hospital Addiction Services. Dr. Masterson's areas of interest include substance use disorders, mood and anxiety disorders, trauma-related struggles, and lifestyle nutritional psychiatry. He is motivated to have a holistic mindset where mental health, addiction, and physical health struggles are seen as part of a single interconnected picture. Dr. Masterson's treatment focuses not just on reducing difficult symptoms, but supporting sustainable joyful living. Please welcome Dr. Mash.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here, everybody. All right. So, today we'll be talking a bit about energy drinks and nicotine. But I thought that we should start the talk off by first just talking about what is addiction in general before we start talking about individual substances. And so here's a little definition for addiction that we'll kind of go through and explain throughout this first section. So addiction is a chronic